Tonight, Peterborough residents up in arms over a new waste management system and all the thrills and spills from an exciting Mortlock Shield clash this long weekend.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. Residents of Peterborough have raised concerns over the local council's new wastewater management system. They say they'll be left thousands of dollars out of pocket after having to connect new lines to their property.
Council's multi-million-dollar sewerage system, but for some it's coming at a hefty price.
Some people have to knock down sheds or carports. They'll have to pull down their buildings to dig it up and put the line in through the cement.
Disability pensioner Shane Zimmerman says he's been forced to foot the cost of connection from his house to the street.
You know, they're going to put it through my carport, and I said, no, put it around the side, but I've got 3 blocks, so I've got to run 120 feet or more across pipeline to the next street.
They say it's simply not fair. Some residents are already forking out over $6,000 to install new environmentally friendly septic tanks in their own backyards. They claim they've now been told to destroy them.
And they got people to, just months before, put new systems down at thousands of dollars cost. Now have to pull the holes in them and dig them and fill them in.
They worry pensioners won't be able to afford the extra yearly costs on top of living expenses.
With an additional $500 a year on top, which is a separate payment, I'll be paying nearly $1,700 a year in rates in this sewage.
But the council says it has continued to keep ratepayers informed of the total cost of the project. It says the system will be available from July 1 and as a part of the budget process is considering a rebate of $270 for 2018 and 19. But locals say that isn't enough.
You won't find out till the end what it's going to cost you, and that's the whole thing. People don't know, and people are scared, they're going to end up having to sell a house or go broke.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
3 people have been arrested following a traffic stop in Moonta. A 30-year-old Wallaroo man was reported for drink and drug driving while disqualified. His passenger, also from Wallaroo, was arrested for 2 counts of property damage, misuse of a motor vehicle and driving unlicensed when officers discovered he was wanted over those offences. Another passenger was also arrested for theft and issued with a drug diversion notice for possession of methamphetamine and a fine for possession of cannabis. They will all face the Kadina Magistrates Court. Sanjeev Gupta continues to make his mark in South Australia with his energy company to provide cheaper power to over 20 companies. Simac Zen Energy has secured an 8-year deal to provide electricity at a cheaper rate for some of the state's biggest energy consumers. John Hunt has more.
Since buying the wireless steelworks nearly a year ago, Sanjeev Gupta has wasted no time in making his footprint on the state's business scene. His next challenge has been confirmed, with Simac Zen Energy tasked with reducing the power costs of the state's largest consumers. 20 companies, including former steelworks owner Arium, Oz Minerals, Thomas Foods and Adelaide Brighton Cement, formed an alliance in 2016. Through the Chamber of Mines and Energy, the group secured ACCC approval to band together and bulk buy electricity from a retailer. After months of deliberation, Simac Zen Energy will be that retailer.
This is between 20 and 50% savings on existing contracts for these companies.
The energy will come from a number of proposed projects in the Upper Spencer Gulf, which include solar, battery storage and pumped hydro. Mr. Gupta has previously targeted new energy projects as a way to secure supply and reduce crippling costs, and Zen is confident there'll be a flow-on effect.
As we control and take this load off the market, yes, absolutely, there'll be a knock-on effect to residential customers.
Zen Energy says this is just the beginning for the company.
A very exciting day for us in our future plans to become a significant energy generator and retailer of clean energy.
Wireless steelworks, however, won't benefit price-wise, pulling out at an earlier stage due to a conflict of interest. But with the site having excess land and gas generation, it's still in a position to play a big role.
John Hunt reporting there. Broken Hill Police say overall they're pleased with driver behaviour this long weekend. Officers still had to deal with a few incidents though, including a man allegedly caught drink driving 3 separate times in one day.
A relatively well-behaved weekend from the region's motorists.
Thankfully, no fatalities and no major accidents where people were injured, so that's terrific.
Police across New South Wales ran Operation Stay Alert.
In the Barrier Police District, police conducted almost 1,500 random breath tests. Of that, there was about 153 infringement notices issued. And I think about 50 of those were for excessive speed.
A number of highway patrol and squad car units were stationed along highways across the region. One motorcyclist was pulled over after a dangerous overtaking manoeuvre on the Barrier Highway.
Didn't have a licence, motorbike, unregistered, uninsured, etc, etc. And also the plates didn't match the motorcycle, so it just kept getting worse for him.
The rider will now have to fork out over $4,000 in fines. But what really stunned officers was a man they say was caught drink driving 3 times on Friday.
A 54-year-old man was pulled up early in the morning, recorded a positive result in terms of a breath test.
The man was charged for mid-range drink driving after blowing .14. 2 hours later, the same man was pulled over and allegedly returned a blood alcohol level of .16. He was then charged with driving in high range and driving while suspended.
But unfortunately, it gets worse because about 6 o'clock, the same man, would you believe, was pulled up again, and this time he was charged with high range PCA, .21 from memory, drive while suspended, breach of bail, and he was bail refused on those matters.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Meantime, a drink driver has been caught in Port Pirie over the long weekend. The 33-year-old man from Wirrabra allegedly recorded a blood alcohol reading of .106 when patrols stopped his car along Main Road early Sunday morning. He lost his licence for 6 months and will face court later. Still to come tonight, wintry conditions proves to be the perfect storm for sailors taking part in the Port Lincoln Frostbite Regatta. That's next. Country hospitals across the region will now have access to round-the-clock stroke support. Doctors from metropolitan stroke units will now be able to help staff at local hospitals over the phone and by using video conferencing technology. It'll allow for faster and more accurate decisions, improving the outcome for regional patients. Broken Hill councillor is suggesting the town set up a future fund to secure the town's financial outlook. They say the strategy would then allow the transfer of mounting rates onto low-income households, which can't afford for it to be stopped.
A plan that could be compared to a superannuation fund for City Council.
Council needs to start planning for the future instead of just saying they're planning for the future, which they have in the past.
Mr Kennedy has been a vocal opponent against the transfer of mining rates onto residential and commercial ratepayers, saying there's better avenues to financial stability. But there is a catch.
What council would actually would do, instead of putting the mine rates onto the community, they put that mine rates into the bank. So that council would have to reduce its expenditure for a small amount of time. They'd have to be more economic in what they do, more efficient.
As part of council's operational plan, mining rates are being transferred onto the city's ratepayers as a safety precaution in case mining grounds to a halt. That was before it was announced the North Mine would remain open until 2032.
Council needs to get realistic about actually investing in the future of the city. At the moment they're not, and they need to.
Mr Kennedy says a number of other mining towns have set up future funds and it's paying dividends.
Some of those councils already had $30–40 million and expect to have $50+ million at the end of the life of the mine. So that $50 million then pays interest, which is way beyond what they'd be collecting in rates from those mines.
He plans to put forward a motion for a future fund at this month's meeting and hopes the community gets on board. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
With the Whyalla Council budget now accepted by elected members, local residents can now have their say on the plans. Budget submissions are now being taken along with a public meeting tomorrow night where residents will be able to put the heat on staff.
After months of deliberation, Council has a budget ready to go. Roads, stormwater improvements and an upgrade to the marina are the key projects to be tackled this year. The next stage is public consultation, where residents can review it and have their say.
Get to have a look at the proposed budget that the council has put together and give direct feedback to our councillors so they can make an informed decision.
Consultation is open until next Tuesday. Residents can submit feedback online or they can deliver it to council officers. Residents will also have the chance to ask council staff directly at a public meeting at the local library tomorrow night.
They can come out to the library at 6:30 and they can hear a presentation by our officers and actually interact directly with our councillors.
The process was a contested one, with a proposed 5% rate increase watered down to 2.5%. It was a close-run decision, with council split on the number.
The issue is an emotive one. Hopefully the community can see that, CPI was 2.3, we're looking at a rate rise of 2.5.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
While sailing in the region's winter isn't everyone's cup of tea, every June long weekend, Port Lincoln hosts its annual Frostbite Regatta. The competition over the weekend saw 21 boats take to the water for the iconic event, with many local skippers dominating the fleet.
Prime conditions for Port Lincoln's annual Frostbite Regatta.
It's been running for 35 years and it's awesome to be back here in Port Lincoln. Certainly winter sailing isn't something that we all love, but Frostbite is something we love, and it gives us an excuse to get together in the off-season and go for a sail.
Light winds challenged sailors on the first day, however the breeze picked up to see some strong competition on day 2.
Winter sailing is always a bit fickle. It can be a bit light and a bit challenging. Usually breezes come from the north or the east, and it makes for some really tight, close racing, and everyone gets to sniff up the top of the fleet at some point.
The 6 races saw some of Australia's top sailors race to the finish line.
We had 2 boats travel from interstate. The reigning national champions, the Purple Circle from Perth, drove 24 hours non-stop to be here.
The competition is pretty good in SA, and we sort of need a bit of competition. We certainly got it out there.
While the current national champions were competing in the fleet, it was homegrown talent that took out the top 3 spots, with Ryan Kelly, Luke Stevens and Ash Dyer.
We won, my mate Luke came second, and we came through school together, and then third as well with Ash Dyer being a local, so it's a pretty good feeling racing against your best mates and getting the result with them.
Really top, really quality fleet, and yeah, some really good racing.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
After the break, the Eyre Peninsula's biggest football carnival wraps up. We'll have more on the 2018 Mortlock Shield next. Crystal Brook Kindy kids today paid a very special visit to aged care residents at the local hospital. They spent the time talking and singing with each other, and some residents say these fortnightly visits is what help keeps them alive.
I like to play with Shirley at the hospital, and I love singing her songs.
The bond between residents and the kids is so strong that now they choose to visit their elderly friends in their free time. That's lovely. More than 100 of the best darts players in the state descended on Whyalla over the long weekend for the annual Country Darts Championships. Players from as far as Mount Gambier stepped up to take part in the tournament, which featured a mix of singles and team matches. 12 teams played each other once in the round robin format over the 2 days.
So it's great for the town, and I think everyone enjoys it, and they actually enjoy coming to Whyalla because they love the venue and they love just coming here.
Port Pirie were crowned the winners for 2018 with Murray Bridge second and Port Augusta coming third. Whyalla finished in 6th position. The Eyre Peninsula's biggest football carnival, the 2018 annual Mortlock Shield, saw some tough competition in Port Lincoln over the weekend. While there was some challenging weather about, it didn't dampen the spirits of players and onlookers. Our reporter Casey Trelaw is at the Oval. Casey, how did the competition unfold?
Fraser, Centenary Oval here was certainly a hive of excitement during the Shield over the weekend. The tournament got off to a flying start on Saturday, with Midwest silencing Far North 90-13. The EP Sharks came into the competition as strong contenders, and they showed their form on day 1 with a huge win over Far West by 75 points. All eyes then turned to day 2 of the competition on Monday, where it was a tight race between the 2 Port Lincoln teams. But consistent kicking accuracy saw Lincoln City hang on to win by 7 points. The wet weather kicked in at lunchtime, resulting in a low-scoring game between Great Flinders and Eastern Eyre. Great Flinders managed to get up by 21 points. And in the final game of the day, the EP Sharks took on Midwest in what many thought were the 2 favourite teams for the Shield. While the Sharks dominated the first term, Midwest hit back with 3 goals, leaving the Sharks with just a 5-point lead at half-time. But the Sharks rallied in the third term and took a 29-point lead in the final break. Mid West held the Sharks scoreless in the final quarter, but couldn't do enough to score goals of their own, falling short by 25 points, leaving the EP Sharks coach Harry Miller thrilled with the boys' performance.
Played in wet conditions. It was sort of Mid West got through everything at us, and I knew that it was going to be a tight contest and going to be going down to the wire.
The boys also proud to wear a special Guernsey.
We had an Indigenous Guernsey designed by Auntie Gillian Larkin, and that was sort of a first time experience for the whole Mortlock, and it was, the boys performed very well on it.
While there was plenty of the region's best players on the field, it was a joint win for the best and fairest medal for Great Flinders' Levi Knitska and the EP Sharks' Derek Wanganeen. The weekend also saw the top junior players battle it out in the Port Adelaide Cup on Sunday, with Lincoln City taking home the trophy after winning all 3 games. So, Fraser, it was a thrilling weekend of football here in Port Lincoln, and congratulations to the EP Sharks on taking home the 2018 Mortlock Shield.
Thanks, Casey. Casey Treloar in Port Lincoln there. We'll stay with us after the break. Amy's along with all the local weather, and it seems the cloudy weather has followed us into the new week, Amy.
It sure has, Fraser, with some areas seeing rain as we get back to work after the long weekend. I'll have the details next. Welcome back. Cloudy around most centres today, with Port Lincoln seeing showers and a top of 17. Maximums in Port Augusta and Whyalla also sat in the high teens. Taking a look at the satellite, and cloud crossing the southern regions with a cold front and a trough are bringing gusty conditions and some light showers. Central parts of the state are remaining clear. If you're heading out on the waters tomorrow, northwesterly winds will pick up to 25 knots, with seas reaching up to 4 metres. Sunrise is at 7:21, while it will set at 5:17. Looking at tomorrow's forecast, and most districts will see showers again, with maximums in the low to mid-teens. A wet day expected in Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Lincoln, while Coffin Bay will see wet and windy conditions with a top of 15. The wet weather is expected to continue heading into the weekend in Port Lincoln, heading for tops of 17. Showers in Cleve also, while Woodnar will fine up on Saturday with a high of 17 degrees. Whyalla will reach maximums of 16 towards the end of the week and into Saturday. Port Augusta is also going to see some rainy weather in the coming days and heading for 17 on Friday. Meanwhile, temperatures in Kadina will sit a degree or 2 cooler. Showers in Port Perry are expected to stick around into the weekend. A chilly 12 degrees predicted for Clare on Friday as the showers continue. Meanwhile, the fine conditions are set to happen in Broken Hill. However, temperatures will only reach 14 on Saturday. So, Fraser, it's looking like we'll need our umbrellas once again this week.
Thanks, Amy, and that's all from Southern Cross News this evening. Thanks for your company. Enjoy the rest of your night. Bye for now.